What is under Paris? Beneath the bustling streets of New York City, where 5.5 million people ride the subway every single day, lies a parallel world that time forgot, a network of ghost stations, sealed tunnels, and forgotten passages that tell stories of ambition, tragedy, and urban evolution. Today, we're going underground. Literally, welcome to the ghost metro of New York City. I'm taking you on a journey through some of the most fascinating abandoned spaces in America. From a subway station so beautiful it was called the Jewel in the Crown, to secret presidential escape routes, to tunnels that became underground art galleries. To understand New York's ghost metro, you first need to grasp the sheer scale of what's beneath your feet. The NYC subway system has 472 stations and over 800 miles of track, making it one of the largest transit networks in the world. But here's what most people don't know. Dozens of stations have been permanently closed, either entirely or in part. Some were casualties of progress, others were victims of their own design, and a few, well, they were never meant for the public at all. According to the MTA, 119 stations have closed street stairs or control areas, and 130 have sealed entrances. That's 298 closed stairways and 114 abandoned control areas scattered throughout the system. Most were shut down between the 1970s and 1990s due to crime concerns, budget cuts, or redundancy. But unlike demolition, abandonment preserves. And what's been preserved is extraordinary. Our first stop is arguably the most famous abandoned station in the world. City Hall Station, October 27th, 1904. Imagine you're standing in Lower Manhattan on what would become one of the most important days in the city's history. The very first New York City subway ride is about to depart, and the ceremony begins here, at City Hall Station. This wasn't just any subway stop, this was a statement. The architects George Louis Hines and Christopher Grant Lafarge, the same duo who designed the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, created something unprecedented. Working with master artisan Raphael Guastavino, they built what can only be described as an underground cathedral. Arched tile ceilings, brass chandeliers, leaded glass skylights, intricate herringbone patterns in red Roman brick. This station had the kind of details you'd expect in a palace, not a subway. The colors alone were stunning. White subway tiles, which would go on to define the aesthetic of transit systems worldwide, crowned with green tile arches and accented with blue skylights. Every element was designed to catch the eye, to inspire wonder. Why go to such lengths? This was 1904, and New York wanted to prove it belonged among the great cities of the world: London, Paris, Rome. The City Beautiful movement was in full swing, based on the idea that beautiful architecture could actually improve society. But there was a problem built into the station's very bones. The platform at City Hall is curved, severely curved, just over 200 feet long, wrapping around a tight bend. When the station opened, trains were only 5 cars long, with doors at the front and back, where the gap to the platform was narrowest. But as New York grew, so did the trains. By the 1940s, the city needed longer trains to handle increased ridership. 10-car trains became standard, and at City Hall Station, the gap between the train doors and the curved platform became dangerously wide. On December 31st, 1945, New Year's Eve, City Hall Station closed to the public. In its final year, it handled only about 600 passengers a day. The nearby Brooklyn Bridge Station was handling far more traffic and could accommodate modern trains. But here's the beautiful twist. City Hall Station was never truly abandoned. Today, the 6 train still uses City Hall as a turning loop. When the train reaches Brooklyn Bridge, its last official stop, conductors announce, "Everyone off, last stop." But if you stay on the train, which technically you're not supposed to do, but the MTA largely allows, you'll loop through City Hall Station. The lights are dimmed to save electricity, but the skylights still let in natural light during the day. For about 60 seconds, you get a glimpse of 1904. The chandeliers are still there. The tiles still gleam. It's like riding through a time capsule. In 1979, City Hall Station was designated a New York City landmark. In 2004, it was added to the National Register of Historic Places, and the New York Transit Museum now offers exclusive tours, but only to museum members, and tickets are highly coveted, selling out within minutes. The station stands as a reminder of what happens when function meets artistry, and when a city dares to build something that matters. From architectural marvel to political intrigue, our next stop is Track 61, Grand Central Terminal. One of the world's most iconic train stations, 500,000 commuters pass through every day, rushing across the pink marble of the main concourse, barely looking up at the celestial ceiling above them. But beneath all that grandeur, 9 flights down, the equivalent of 13 stories underground, there's a track that most New Yorkers don't even know exists. Track 61 is part of what's called the Lex Yard, a 12-track storage area built in the 1910s during Grand Central's construction. Originally, it served the terminal's power station and heating plant, with platforms used to carry away ashes. But in 1929, something changed. The Waldorf Astoria Hotel purchased the air rights above the tracks, and they had an idea. Here's what the New York Times reported in September 1929. Guests with private rail cars may have them routed directly to the hotel instead of to Pennsylvania Station or Grand Central Terminal, and may leave their cars at a special elevator, which will take them directly to their suites or to the lobby. A secret entrance for the wealthy and powerful from train to hotel without ever stepping outside. The first person to officially use Track 61 was General John J. Pershing in 1938, recovering from a heart attack and needing to avoid public exertion. But the track's most famous user was President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt had polio. He used a wheelchair, though he went to extraordinary lengths to hide this from the public. This was 1940s America, and disability was viewed very differently. Using Track 61, the president could arrive by train, stay in his car as it was transported directly to the platform, and take a private elevator straight into the Waldorf Astoria. The only documented use of Track 61 by FDR was on October 21, 1944, during a campaign stop. Secret Service records show he entered the hotel through the underground passage and later left via New York Central elevators to the New York Central Railroad siding, located in the basement of the hotel. Now, here's where legend and truth get blurry. For decades, people believed a specific rail car abandoned on Track 61 was Roosevelt's personal car. Bulletproof, with a special suspension system for his wheelchair, even gun turrets in the roof. In 2019, that car was moved to the Danbury Railway Museum in Connecticut, and experts confirmed it was just New York Central Baggage Car 002. The doors weren't wide enough for a limousine. The presidential car was a myth, kept alive by tour guides and repeated in countless articles. But Track 61 itself? Very real. And according to some reports, though never officially confirmed, it may still be used as an emergency escape route for presidents and high-level officials when they stay at the Waldorf. In 2003, during the UN General Assembly, there were reports that President George W. Bush, Colin Powell, and Condoleezza Rice had Track 61 available as an escape option. Whether they used it remains classified. Track 61 is completely closed to the public. You can catch fleeting glimpses of it from Metro North trains leaving Grand Central. But that's it. An unmarked door off Park Avenue leads down to the platform, but it's locked, guarded, and entering would be trespassing on federal property. It remains one of New York's most tantalizing secrets, a reminder that even in the most public places, there are layers of privacy, power, and mystery. Not all abandoned tunnels are elegant, not all are secret, and not all hide the past. Some showcase it in the most unexpected ways. Welcome to the Freedom Tunnel running beneath Riverside Park on Manhattan's west side, from 72nd Street to 125th Street. The Freedom Tunnel stretches for nearly 3 miles, built in the 1930s as part of Robert Moses's massive infrastructure projects for the New York Central Railroad. It carried freight trains until 1980. Then, for 11 years, it carried nothing at all. And in that silence, something remarkable happened. Street artists discovered the tunnel. The isolation meant they could work without fear of arrest. But there was something else, something magical about the space. Grates in the sidewalks of Riverside Park above allow shafts of natural light to pour into the tunnel. Artists would position their work beneath these light shafts, creating a spotlight effect, turning a forgotten freight tunnel into an underground gallery. The tunnel is named after one of those artists, Chris Freedom Pape. Starting in 1974, Pape created over 40 paintings in the tunnel. Not tags, not simple graffiti, full murals. Art history references rendered in spray paint on concrete. He painted Francisco Goya's The 3rd of May, a masterpiece about Spanish resistance to Napoleon, recontextualized in a space that would soon become about American resistance to displacement. He painted Venus de Milo, Michelangelo's David, the melting clocks of Salvador Dali, fragments of the Sistine Chapel. Other legendary graffiti artists followed: Sane Smith, Ghost, Twist, Cost, and Revs. The tunnel became a pilgrimage site for street artists. During the 1980s and early 1990s, a community of homeless people established what became known as a shanty town in the tunnel. At its peak in 1994, nearly 100 people lived there, with pirated electricity, makeshift structures, and a sense of community that many couldn't find above ground. The 1995 book The Mole People by Jennifer Toth and the 2000 documentary Dark Days by Mark Singer brought the tunnel and its inhabitants into public consciousness, though researchers later pointed out significant inaccuracies in Toth's sensationalized account. On April 4, 1991, everything changed. Amtrak reopened the tunnel for trains on what's called the Empire Connection. The shantytowns were bulldozed, the tunnel was chained off, hundreds of people were evicted. When Amtrak sealed the entrance, some residents dug under the wall with their bare hands. Trying to return home, Pop responded with art. On the outer wall, he painted "Freedom to Write." Inside, he created 2 murals about the eviction. "There's No Way Like the American Way," a bitter parody of Coca-Cola advertising, and his recreation of Goya's The 3rd of May, connecting the Spanish massacre to the displacement happening in his own time. Today, Amtrak trains still run through the Freedom Tunnel. Starting around 2009, the company began repainting sections, covering many of the historic murals. Some of Pape's work remains, faded but visible. The tunnel is still visited by urban explorers and graffiti artists, though Amtrak police conduct regular sweeps. Walking the Freedom Tunnel, though it's federal trespassing to do so, is said to be like walking through a museum of urban resistance. Natural light still pours through those grates. The walls still carry stories. And occasionally you hear the roar and feel the rush of an Amtrak train barreling through the darkness. It's a reminder that abandoned doesn't always mean forgotten, and that sometimes the most powerful art is created in spaces society has left behind. Before we wrap up, there are a few more ghost stations worth mentioning, each with their own unique story. Running beneath Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn, from Columbia Street to Boerum Place, lies what the Guinness Book of World Records recognizes as the oldest subway tunnel in the world. But here's the thing, it's not actually a subway tunnel. It was built in 1844 as an open-cut railroad for the Long Island Railroad, then roofed over a year later and converted into a tunnel that makes it the oldest railway tunnel beneath a city street in North America. Why was it built? Public demand. Residents didn't want trains running at street level, so the railroad went underground. In 1861, amid controversy over noise and safety, the tunnel was sealed. For 119 years, it sat undisturbed, occasionally rumored to hide everything from bootleg whiskey stills to German terrorists making bombs. In 1918, the FBI actually broke through the ceiling with jackhammers, convinced German agents were using it. They found nothing. In 1980, a 20-year-old named Bob Diamond rediscovered the tunnel. He crawled through a manhole at Atlantic Avenue and Court Street, broke through a concrete bulkhead wall with the help of a Brooklyn Union gas crew, and opened access to the main portion of the tunnel for the first time in over a century. Diamond led tours from 1982 until 2010, when safety concerns forced the Department of Transportation to terminate his contract. The tunnel was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1989. Today, it's sealed again. But if you visit the bar Le Boudoir on Atlantic Avenue, you can catch glimpses of the barrel-vaulted ceilings through the floor. Scattered throughout the system are dozens more abandoned platforms and stations, visible only from passing trains. 91st Street Station on the one line, a platform that flashes by between 96th and 86th Streets, with columns and tilework frozen in time. 18th Street on the Lexington Avenue line, closed in 1948, now used for storage. Worth Street on the Lexington Avenue line, another victim of low ridership and station consolidation. Myrtle Avenue stations, multiple closed stations along the now demolished elevated lines. Each represents a decision: continue maintaining this station or let the city evolve past it. So why do these abandoned spaces fascinate us so much? Maybe it's because they're proof that even in a city as dense and developed as New York, there are still secrets, still places that exist outside the rush of daily life. Or maybe it's because these tunnels and stations tell us something about who we are, about our ambitions, like City Hall Station, where we built something beautiful just because we could. About our power structures, like Track 61, where the elite could literally travel on a different level. About our resilience, like the Freedom Tunnel, where art and community thrived in abandonment. The NYC subway moves 1.7 billion passengers a year, but beneath all that movement, there's stillness. Beneath the new, there's history. And beneath the streets where millions walk, there are passages that only a few will ever see. The ghost metro of New York isn't just about abandoned infrastructure. It's about memory, about the layers of a city that never stops changing, but somehow never completely erases its past. If you're ever riding the 6 train past Brooklyn Bridge, stay on. Ignore the announcement. Dim the lights in your mind and look out the window as the train curves through City Hall Station. For just a moment, you'll see it. The New York that was. The New York that could have been. The New York that's still there, if you know where to look. Thanks for joining me on this journey underground. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the description for sources and further reading about New York's hidden history. Until next time, keep exploring. Even in the darkness, there's always something beautiful waiting to be found.